Hey everyone, I'm assuming everyone can see my screen and I'm gonna start presenting. So my name is Ayman and I'm an engineer at GitHub on the semantic code team. I'm interested in figuring out how to improve developer tools using static analysis. But there's another class of hard problems surrounding the UX of how we learn, work, and share knowledge about code and different advanced systems that we work on every day. And this lightning talk is essentially about some ideas that I've been hacking on to integrate documentation a lot more closely with the code that it's meant to describe. Specifically, I've been working on figuring out what visual annotations could look like and how they could transform the way we collaborate. I call my idea hieroglyphic. So the motivating problem is that today's software development is complicated and workflows are really disaggregated. Getting oriented in a new project is really difficult, and even familiar projects suffer from the friction caused by poor tooling that often work against you rather than for you. So this complexity is due to a few factors. We have an explosion of services. There's a lot of off-the-shelf APIs and language boundaries that developers have to cross in order to make modern development workflows work. And so to get a sense of how convoluted everything is, I'm going to give you an example of, how crazy my own workflow gets. Sometimes I might have a terminal running with a REPL, maybe some Git and server processes, database consoles, error logs. Then I'll have a browser with maybe like 40 tabs open, researching developer documentation, unfamiliar errors on just reading, PRs and issues on GitHub. And then of course I might be using a bunch of GUIs such as GitHub Desktop, Azure Data Studio, or Graphical, depending on what it is I'm trying to accomplish. And then of course I have my main workspace, which is my IDE. I also tend to use a lot of paper and pen to sort of record to-do lists, quickly drawing out diagrams, things like that. I've historically used whiteboards, especially to share concepts and ideas between teammates. And this can also be done on a tablet or an iPad. Maybe you're mirroring with a second screen, but having a pencil and sort of tablet really helps in my workflow as well. And all of these different tools get really, really crazy. So as you can see, there's a lot going on, and this kind of keeps ideas spatially distant, and that slows the rate at which problems are solved. And this, to me, is akin to doing trigonometry in the pre-calculator era, where you had to manually look up trigonometric ratios. Ideally, there's one place that developers go to get all of their work done. And while I don't think tackling a full integration of every tool at once is the right approach, I do think that we can make incremental improvements that reduce the cognitive overhead of jumping between tools. And that's where Hieroglyphic comes in. Hieroglyphic allows developers, designers, learners, and educators more degrees of freedom when reasoning about software without having to leave the immediate workspace. So this is an example of how you could draw a diagram, markup, or write on code. And just like Photoshop has layers, I think that we should be able to have layers for our code files. This will allow us to capture more data across the software development lifecycle, illustrating how we can think through problems and build programs. We often tend to think of programming to look something like this, but it looks more like this, where there are so many different multidimensional connections you have to be acutely aware of. I think that visual annotations provide a richer and more expressive way to understand, learn, and communicate about code. If you're interested in similar problems, I'd love to hear from you. Please get in touch. This is my handle, just my first name and last name on GitHub and Twitter, as well as my email. Thank you.